Surya Roy ji, welcome back to the podcast. Always wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. And today being Sri Ram Navami,
Yes.
we are celebrating the birth of Sri Rama after I think 1528 in Ayodhya.
In Ayodhya.
And the architecture has been built in such a wonderful way, reminding of our glorious era of temple architecture, where the Surya Kiran will be focusing on the forehead over here of Sri Rama. It will be there for I think 52 or 53 seconds.
I see.
So I mean, let's start our session devoting or dedicating this podcast to Sri Rama.
Absolutely.
And Kavanda Bahu Chedaka Ram, Kumbha Karna Sira Chedaka Ram, Ram Ram Jaya Raja Ram, Ram Ram Jaya Sita Ram.
Wonderful way to begin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So today we are discussing the history of Bangladesh, Bengal.
Yes.
So let's begin. How far back do we begin?
Okay, so Bengal that people see today was not the Bengal that we have experienced. It was not only rich in literature, education, culture, military, politically, and has been contributing to the national treasure for in a very, very big way, even during the time of the Mughals. You will be astonished to know, I mean, as far as we can go back, Bengal used to contribute almost around 34% of the national revenue of the Mughal exchequer, even till the time of Farrukhsiyar, Emperor Farrukhsiyar. Okay. And this was obviously the reason for all the Europeans to land on the East Coast.
Of course. Yes. The most prosperous region, essentially.
Right. And everybody knows by virtue of the Battle of Plassey that the biggest banker of Asia, Jagat Seth Fateh Chand. Jagat Seth is a title, of course. People know Jagat Seth as an individual, but Jagat Seth is a title given to the richest man of Bengal that time, who was actually Fateh Chand. One of the key conspirators, of course, against Siraj-ud-Dawla in the Battle of Plassey. But besides that, he was the richest man, and even the Britishers used to, think twice before doing anything and discussing everything with him before they used to take a call or any matter for that matter, because he even financed the British, Dutch, and the Portuguese also to some extent.
I see.
Yeah, so that is one thing. But if we look at the history of Bengal...
And when we talk about the history of Bengal, we are also including Bangladesh, present-day Bangladesh.
Absolutely.
Yes. Unified Bengal.
Yes, I will come to that point also. So but before I get into all those details, it is important here to understand that the Bengal's history that we primarily see today, solid sources or the literary, the archaeological, and all these evidences that we see today are being documented from the time of Shashanka. Shashanka, who was the progenitor of Bangabda.
So what time period is this roughly?
He was contemporary of Harsha.
What, in
7th century.
7th century AD.
7th century AD. 7th century between 7th and 8th, because Harsha was ruling around 741 CE to 760 CE, around that time.
Right.
So Harsha was, Shashanka was also around that time.
Around that time.
8th century, basically.
Okay.
And that was also the time when Huan Sang is touring Kannauj, Thaneshwar, and Bengal also, for that matter. So, but then earlier sources, the period prior to Shashanka, comes from various other non-Bharatiya sources, like the Tibetan sources, Buddhist texts, Jain texts to some extent, Pali Brahmi scripts to certain extent, not some solid literary work which can be quoted of that time.
So various disparate sources.
Even then, we have been able to reconstruct the history of the period prior to Shashanka. And then it is also important to understand, which we will touch base in our next episodes in a more greater detail, what is the origin of the Bengali people. And that's very astonishing that, just to give a small snapshot of who the Bengalis people are. Bengali people are normally known by the Bengali Kayats or the Kayasthas.
Okay.
Okay, but you have in the Bengali blood, you have Celtic blood also.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Celtic blood, you have a little bit of Greek blood also.
How so? How did this happen?
Maritime trade.
Maritime trade.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Tamralipta was a natural harbor. So the east coast, basically the east coast, when we were discussing the Kalingan maritime trade, I had mentioned the east coast expanding between the mouth of Ganges to the mouth of Godavari, the 600-kilometer coastline.
Yes.
Right. So when it comes to the mouth of Ganges, so obviously there were two natural harbors in this east coast. One was Chilika, Chelipatau.
Okay.
Chelitau, sorry, not Chelitau or Chilika. And the other one was Tamralipta, or the modern day Tamluk. Right, and both these ports were extensively connected by inland waterways as well as by roadways.
Okay.
So for that matter, why Tamralipta becomes all the more important is because Tamralipta is the culmination point of the Uttarapath. The Uttarapath starts from Taxila, which I explained, and used to come and finish off in Tamralipta Vandar. And all the merchants right up from Kashi, wherever you have inland waterways connecting into the Ganges, they used to take that route to come over and unload their cargo over here, load it and get it back to the Suvarnadeep or Ceylon or even to African ports or Egyptian ports.
Okay.
So that's how the the Celtic blood and Roman blood also flows into this thing, and of course to some extent Mongoloid blood also is there. So we will discuss in little detail because this requires a little bit of understanding with a greater DNA and all that, how this flows happens. So that will eat up the entire episode. But today I wanted to actually give you a very reasonable brief of what we can discuss and what we will touch upon in the coming days on the history of Bengal. But to start with, let's go back to our Mahakavyas, where Vangadesh comes from.
Yes.
So, if we go to Valmiki's Ramayana, Raja Dashrath's extreme eastern end of his kingdom is the Vangadesh.
Okay.
That is the earliest reference of Vangadesh which we get.
Okay.
Then comes the Mahabharat. In Mahabharat, and of course Sambhu Manusmriti, where the Uttarapath comes in, he describes the Brahmarshi Desha, Brahmabharta and all that. But if we look at the Puranic texts, the three names which we often come across in Mahabharata also are the Anga, Vanga, Kalinga, right? Which is very well known. Angadesh ka Raja Karan thay.
Karan, yes.
Right. But where these names come from, the Puranic sources, to the best of my findings, goes back to the times of Maharaj Bali. Bhakt Prahalad, unka beta Virochan, Virochan ka beta Bali.
Okay.
Vaman avatar, basically, right? So Maharaj Bali, he was blessed with 5 sons under the aegis of Maharshi Dirghatamas. And these 5 sons were named as Anga, Vanga, Kalinga, Pondra and Suhama.
Okay.
So let's politically or geographically, over the period of time, these areas have kind of shifted from here to there, and scholars have also defined it. They have not agreed. So there is a lot of debate around, the geographical limits of each of these names, against each of these names. And we will touch upon that also with maps in our next slides, next shows. But then what is important here to understand that in the current context, for the benefit of our audiences, the Vanga is the Bangladesh part.
Okay.
Right? Vanga is Bangladesh today.
Today's Bangladesh.
Today's Bangladesh, East Pakistan or whatever you say.
Yes.
Anga is Bihar, Jharkhand side. Kalinga, of course, we know Orissa.
Yes.
Then comes Pondra and Sohama. Pondra and Sohama is nothing but these two add up to current day West Bengal.
Okay.
Okay. Pondra Desh is from the district of Bardhaman onwards. Vasudev Pondrik, who used to be an enemy of Devkiputra Krishna, was from this region.
I see.
Pondra Desh. This is Bardhaman and upstreams. the Rar Bhumi, in other words, the Rar Bhumi, or the Gaurya Desh. These are parts of Pondra. And Sohama is, you can say, a little bit of Kuch Bihar and upwards. And then on the other side, you have Kamrup and then Pragjyotishpur, of course. Pragjyotishpur, Kamrup, they all add up to present day Assam to that extent. Now, these are the geographical limits, of these against these names, which can be more or less with some kind of 90-95% accuracy, can say, but there are slight variations here and there, which we can, I will show some slides in our current coming episodes to give a better understanding to the people. Now, this is one thing. The second thing is that let's look at the Mahakavyas. Now, some startling facts. One, Draupadi Sayambar, the king of Tamralipta, is one of the contenders.
Okay.
In the war of Mahabharata, Kurukshetra war, this gentleman, the person who was Draupadi Sayambar, was there. Tamralipta fought against the Pandavas, which is for the Kauravas. So basically, if we see Anga, Vanga, Kalinga, Pragjyotishpur, Kamrup, they were fighting as a confederacy on behalf of the Kauravas. And a good description of it comes out in the Drona Parva, of Mahabharata, where, Arjuna is chasing Jayadratha in that portion. Okay, I'm not getting into the scantos and all that stuff that normally is used, slokas. So that is the time when Maharaj Yudhishthir dispatches Sataki to the support of Arjuna. He said, "Unki piche piche jao, he may require support." That is the time when Arjuna is surrounded by the armies from east. He is countered by the king of Kalinga. He is countered by the king of Tamralipta, and he is countered by the king of Vanga. And then he also fights Bhagadatta, who is the king of Pragjyotishpur and the son of Narkasur.
Okay. So
Bhagadatta, being a very old veteran of war, his eyelids were like this, and it had to be pulled up with a patti and he was the person who shoots the divine weapon towards Arjuna. So these descriptions pertaining to the eastern India or Angavanga Kalinga Desh, comes out of the Mahabharata. Okay, so that's the Puranic Upakhyan. Of course, you have the 51 Shakti Peeths or Sati Peeths, whatever you say, in Eastern India, many of them. So in the Kalika Puran and the respective Sthala Puranas, you get mention of details of those places as well. Now, this is one thing. Then comes the earliest descriptions, of course, come from the maritime trade, which people today overlook many times.
Okay.
We discuss so much about the Kalingan maritime trade.
Yes.
But the Bengal maritime trade is often overlooked. Kalinga ka thoda so abhi discussion hota hai, but Bengal maritime trade is completely overlooked. Tamralipta is one of the bandas. So why was Tamralipta so important? As I said, that it was calling the mother vessels and it was a natural harbor, just like Chilika. I'm going to use the term Chilika and, specifically because that was the term which was, and Tamralipta.
Yes.
Because that was the term which was mostly used.
Okay.
But if I look at the Greek descriptions by Ptolemy or by the unknown Greek soldiers who wrote Pericles of the Adriatic Sea, they mention it as Tamilitis.
Okay.
Tamralipta is mentioned as Tamilitis in their documents.
Okay.
And they do refer to the thriving port and the large hinterland. So hinterland is basically the area, and it can be as big as extending till Kashi also, which feeds the cargo of the port. That's the hinterland basically, from where the cargo movement happens or the business products which comes in for loading, unloading, and the inbound and outbound load goes in basically. So that's one thing. The other part of it is, these Greek descriptions are from 1st century AD, 2nd century AD, give you a detailed description of how business runs from Tamralipta, and it is not at all different from what we had discussed in the Kalingan maritime trade.
Okay.
Everything is same. So people who have seen that episode can easily relate what I said, that there's no difference. And the products which used to move out obviously had silk, spices,
Mm-hmm.
elephants, ivories, diamonds, and other artifacts, and then various kinds of silk and cotton, herbs to some extent as well.
Okay.
So these were the products which were getting moved out. And obviously Bengal traditionally being a place where rice and wheat, obviously not so much wheat, but rice was a good in agriculturally very rich.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously rice exports also were happening. So today if you see the Suvarnadipa particularly there, or to some extent Ceylon,
Mm-hmm.
if you break the cells of those rices which are used there over today, and you break the cell of the rices which are organically grown in Bengal even today,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find a link.
Okay.
You'll find a link,
Mm-hmm.
right? But surprisingly, what I have understood, what I am still not clear on, that these were areas where the Shakti and the Shaiva worship was more in this eastern segment.
Okay.
And in spite of that, the Mahakavyas, particularly Mahabharata and Ramayana both, they speak of a fact which was very surprising, that if you have touched upon these places, I mean, if you have gone and traveled through these places,
Mm-hmm.
you should come back and do a Shuddhikaran.
Okay.
Because those were places which the Mahakavyas do not see with great regards.
I see.
They feel it is tamasic. These areas are very tamasic.
Okay.
So if you are traveling to those places, you should come back and have a Shuddhikaran.
Okay.
They clearly mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
They clearly mentioned it. And there were processes in place also. Riti Nitis were in place also. We find it in both the Mahakavyas.
I see.
That's very surprising. Although historically or religiously or even from a Puranic standpoint, you have the Shakti Peeths, you have one Jyotirling also, the Devghat Jyotirling, which is a part of the Bangladesh. In spite of all that stuff, such a understanding prevailed.
Okay.
So that's very surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The other thing which comes into foray is from a Puranic standpoint is the mixing of population, which I mentioned. It actually starts from the Puranic times actually. If I really go back, and to the best of my finding as of now, I'm still researching more to get a more detailed stuff into it. Is in the Mahabharata war, we have seen people from the west coming. Iran side coming and participating, the Mongoloids also coming and participating. We have the mention of Yavanas and Mlechas also. So few of these people who are not so considered in high regards actually after the war settled down in these places as well.
Okay.
So that is one of the earliest triggers of blood mixing into, the DNA mixing up and, the Bengali development of the Bengali race that we see today. Okay. So this is from a Puranic standpoint. Now comes the period of Shashanka, and then after Shashanka, obviously the golden era of Pala and the Sena periods, right? So Pala, Sena era, Shashanka, and then comes the most important part, the Islamization of Bengal, which is early 13th century, 1202 CE.
1202 CE.
1202 CE, when Bakhtiyar Khilji, after destroying Nalanda and Vikramshila, lands in Bengal.
Okay.
Now, what is important? Now, this is segment which I will discuss in very detail.
All right.
Because this is a very sore point that Lakshman Sen escaped without putting up a fight.
That's the claim.
That's the claim. And the other claim, which is that Bakhtiyar Khilji conquered Bengal with 18 horsemen. 18 घोड़सवार लेके बंगाल जीत लिया.
I see.
And this has been fed so much into the ecosystem in terms of narrative, in terms of education, that this is a big sore point, which is not true. And why it is not true, I will share those details. Nobody actually has bothered to look into the correctness or sanctity of these claims. Now, what has happened is basically Bakhtiyar Khilji landed and captured. Of course, Bakhtiyar Khilji landed, captured. There is no running away from that fact. But it is not right what is said that Lakshman Sena did not put up a fight. It's like, Pratap accepting the Haldigati defeat without a fight. or Pratap never fought back from Diver, or that. Or Shivaji Maharaj, after Treaty of Purandar, he went into oblivion. It's like that,
That's sort of ridiculous
I
claim.
mean, that's a ridiculous, where you do not see that after the Treaty of Purandar, how he comes back, or after Haldigati, he comes back, and in Diver, and so many forts are won back. So anyways, so it's one part. I mean, this is also, this incident particularly, Abhijit ji, also takes us back to the fact that you take up any Persian text, any Persian historian, Arabic historian, Turkic historian, they will always, in all their works, be it Sirajul Minaz, or Udbi, or Al-Biruni, or Muhammad Balki, or Sayyid Naqvi, Sayyid Mustad Khan, Saki Mustad Khan, everywhere they will always portray 10 times more their victories, and wherever they have lost, they will keep quiet or say that a pleasantry has been exchanged and this thing was taken back.
I see.
But their defeats, where they mellow down, actually, this Persian and Arabic and historians, I have observed that against each of their defeats, there is a contemporary Hindu treaty or an inscription or an epitaph which signifies the massive victory over these forces.
Okay.
For example, two I will quote.
Yeah.
One is the Aihole inscription. The other one is the Navsari inscription. So Navsari inscription speaks of the win of the Confederacy of Pulakesi to Danti Durga or Muhammad Ghori. Similarly, Aihole inscription. Now, Aihole inscription is also the same inscription where Aryabhat gives the dating of the Mahabharata war. Right? So, here also, very much in line with whatever I discussed, the observations and the trends, how these historians, Persian or Turkic or Arabic historians have behaved, even for, this Sirajul Minhaz, when he writes Tabaqt-e-Nasiri, which is the only source of the defeat of Lakshman Sen.
Okay.
It is the only source, Tabaqt-e-Nasiri. And let's understand who was Sirajul Minhaz. Sirajul Minhaz was the head Qazi, a courtier in the Delhi Sultanate, who went to Bengal and stayed there for 2 years. And he went there in 1262 CE.
Okay.
Which is a good 40 years, 4 decades after Lakshman Sen's defeat.
Okay.
And he chronicles the defeat as the win of the army of Musalman. That's how everywhere they always use the army of Musalman.
Okay.
Okay, that's all the historians have written Persian in all the Persian texts and Arabic texts, because of best reasons that we all know why the term is used. Now, he writes not basis of any solid evidences. He writes his basis legends, ballads, folklores, and he interviews only 2 surviving soldiers from Khilji's army.
Okay.
Who were already 70 plus and in their last stages. So whatever he could gather through all those non-ratifiable sources are being put into the Tabaqt-e-Nasiri for defeating, as a defeat, or as a gala story, for Bengal's defeat, or the Hindu kingdom's defeat in the hands of the army of Musalman. It's like Chand Vardai's Prithviraj Raso being popularized and legalized to frame Jaichand. Whereas Jaichand actually had sent 5,000 cavalrymen in the confederacy of Prithviraj Chauhan in the Second Battle of Tarain. And then himself fought and died Veergati Prapt hua tha unko at the hands of Aibak, in the Battle of Kannauj. So, now what had happened that time? The Sena king Lakshman Sen was an old man. He was in his late 70s or early 80s.
I see.
And he was stationed the day when it was attacked. He was stationed in his Nadia city, which was a fortified city.
Okay.
And the Sena army was pretty strong. And at that point of time, Raj Mahal, which is the northern part, somewhere in northern Bengal, bordering Bihar and Jharkhand, Raj Mahal hills. So Raj Mahal used to be the entry point into Bengal that time. So what Khilji had done, he did not enter through Raj Mahal. He took a traversing route and went in and came in through the jungles of Jharkhand.
Okay.
And whereas Sena's army was stationed in Raj Mahal, and Raj Mahal was something like Haldi Ghati.
Okay.
Hilly area, it was like Haldi Ghati. So, आप जैसे घाटी में प्रवेश करोगे तो वो आपको काटेंगे.
Okay.
So the Sena army was waiting there,
Hmm.
and this guy came through this alternate route. And what he did was, he took 18 horsemen. He had 18 horsemen probably, and when they reached the palace of Lakshman Sen, there were 18 horsemen. But it is almost impossible that the fortified city where the king himself is stationed, and he has such a large army, and he had already sent army, he will not keep his, the cream or the people wherever he is unguarded, right?
Mm-hmm.
He will not just entry through 18 horsemen will not just walk into through the checkpost just like that and reach the palaces of the king.
Yeah.
And the king will not jump and run and escape by a boat. That's not possible, right?
Yeah.
So, and then had it been really possible, then Bakhtiyar Khilji, who never used to spare anyone, and he burnt alive some 2,700 Buddhist monks in Nalanda, would have definitely not spared the king.
Yes.
Would have surely beheaded him.
Yeah.
अगर ऐसे ही होता, उसको भागने क्यों देता फिर? Right. So, and the second strong evidence to this emerges from the fact that Lakshman Sen, after moving out from Nadia, he continues to rule from East Bengal for a good amount of time. He controls everything from there using the inland waterways, and he puts up a defense for themselves, which we will discuss in more details. But I wanted to particularly tell the audience that whatever you have read is one based on hearsay. It was documented 40 years after the actual incident. It was documented based on some legend, folklores, and ballads. Only 2 surviving soldiers were interviewed, and there was no credible historical evidence backed up in Tabaqt Nasiri as captured by Siraj, right? Minazul Siraj. So this is once Khilji enters Bengal, the process of Islamization of Bengal actually starts.
Okay.
And then we had this Ilyas Shahi coming in, Qutub Shahi coming in, the Afghans coming in, and the Karnanis coming in. And this was the time when these people also laid their hands on the Jagannath temple and some more key temples of the east.
I see. And
Bakhtiyar Khilji's end obviously came in northeast from the Kamrup border, where he was poisoned or stabbed by his own, confederate. So that is something we will touch upon in greater details, because for understanding that, a little bit of heroism of the Assam kings also needs to be discussed.
Okay.
Because that was the Tibet invasion of Bakhtiyar Khilji which brought his downfall.
Okay.
So, and then obviously Suleiman Karnani, Bayezid Karnani. Apart from that, the other important aspect of Bengal here around this time frame which needs to be discussed is the Bhakti movement. We discussed Vraj, we went to Vraj, but how did Vraj culminate? Vraj culminated from Bengal.
Okay.
With the birth of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Okay.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Bharti, because he was initiated into the Bharti Sampradaya of the Dasnamis. Okay. That is why he's called Sri Krishna Chaitanya Bharti. But
okay.
We all fondly call him Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he with his birth becomes the first Renaissance of Bengal, I would say. Had he not taken birth, then Bengal would have been a complete Islamic state in the next 100 years. By the end of 1600, 1650, it would have been a complete Islamic state.
I see.
Nobody could have saved it. Nobody. Because the rapid acceleration of Islamization which was happening at that point of time was something which was not even countered by the Mughals. And obviously, why should the Mughals come?
Yes.
Do it? And then the Mughals at that point of time, before Akbar, they did not even consider it as their Suba. Only after coming in of Akbar that the focus on Bengal, was redirected when he sends Man Singh to capture the kings, the Bada Bhuiyas and the Karnanis and all this stuff, which we will discuss in detail, because that involves a very big deal of discussion, because that has got a considerable part of naval warfare.
Naval warfare.
Naval warfare,
Okay.
which probably India has witnessed only in south and bit of west, because of the Marathas and because of the Cholas or the Wayanats and all that stuff. But these naval warfares of east, which were fought between the Mughals and the Baru Bhuiyas and the Karnanis and the Portuguese and the Arakan kings. Why it is so important is the involvement of the foreigners into this naval warfares. You had the king of Magh, the king of Burma, the Arakanese king, who commanded a huge army, pretty huge army. Some 100,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 boats, cavalry, elephants, everything he had at his disposal. Okay. Then we had the Portuguese pirates. Portuguese pirates coming in with their artillery and the naval ships, naval war boats, joining this, warlords or the zamindars of Bengal. And whole situation kind of complicates basically. And what is seen here, we have seen the extensive use of inland waterways in the trade and commerce and passenger traffic. Okay. But here in this naval warfare, the extensive use of the creeks, of the shallow waters, of the inland waterways and the jungles along the creeks and the small islands, deltas, abundant usage of that is being recorded. Okay. Unfortunately, all these areas now fall under Bangladesh. Okay. All of them. Because that used to be the happy hunting grounds of these people.
So this would include the Sundarbans?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I mentioned the creeks, the shallow waters, the islands and deltas, because that, and if you look at a creek of Sundarban, even the bravest of the bravest, will think twice before getting into those creeks. Yes. Especially in the evenings,
Tigers, right?
Not only tigers, crocs, and then
crocodiles, yes.
It has got the largest fleet, I would say, of saltwater crocodiles.
Okay.
Sundarban.
Those are giant crocodiles.
Giant crocodiles. It's just like Bhitarkanika of Odisha. Bhitarkanika of Odisha, in the last census, there were some 18,000 saltwater crocodiles found. 18,000. Okay. And last, in 2023 rainy seasons, at least 50 plus people have lost their lives to crocodile attacks. Eaten alive. Sir.
I see.
Abhijit ji zinda logo ko khich ke le gaya hai. And it was recorded on the cameras. People were eaten alive. It was recorded in the cameras.
Very dangerous place.
And these crocodiles, the saltwater crocodiles of Sundarban and Bhitarkanika can grow up to 25 feet.
Yes, monsters. Huge monsters. The largest crocodile in the world.
Yes. Monsters, 25 feet. And they survive 100 plus years.
Okay.
Right. So anyway, the pirates used to, or these people used to make a very good use of these inland waterways, the creeks, the deltas. They used to build forts. We will cover all those details and understand who these people were. And it is also tied, not only this portion, this from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's portion, Vraj gets tied, Mathura gets tied, Orissa, Puri gets tied. And similarly, from with the Man Singh's arrival to contain them, Rajasthan, the Kachawa history gets tied. Kachawa history gets also tied, which we have discussed when we were touring Govind Dev Ji, to the Rup Goswami's initiation in Vrindavan. The Kachawa Raj Parivar, the family, royal family, was a big patron of the Gauriya Vaishnavism, the Gauriya Vaishnav Tattva. So, we will discuss that also when we discuss a little bit of more in Bengal, because in order to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is important to discuss Man Singh, and it is also important to understand how they shaped up Vraj, these people from Bengal, when they went, how they shaped up Vraj. That's all these parts are interlinked to each other actually.
Okay.
And then after that, Islam Khan, the succeeding governor to Man Singh, he is able to contain them, defeat them, and completely subjugate them.
Okay.
These people, stuff that was left a little bit incomplete by Man Singh because of his old age and all that. And then in the last stages of his career, he was pulled by Jahangir into his Deccan campaigns.
Okay.
By Jahangir. So obviously he couldn't focus on this part. But what is important here for people to understand, and what we will do another episode on, is understanding Man Singh, because it becomes extremely important and absolutely imperative in the light of the fact that Man Singh is coming out to be another Ahilyabai Holkar. He is one Kachawa princess or a Raja. He not only patronizes Vaishnavism, but he equally contributes into Shaivism and Shakti worship.
Okay.
How? He builds temple all across. He not only invests heavily in Jaipur, in Vrindavan, Mathura Mandal. He also builds temple in Bihar, in Jharkhand, in Jaipur, and as well as in Bangladesh. And he also contributes to Jagannath Puri. And also to Kashi, also to Ujjain, to some extent. So, and all these temples that he had built was not Vaishnav temples at all. For example, the tutelage deity of Patna, the city of Patna, the Patana Devi, which is a Mahisasur Mardini roop of Ma, the temple was built by, Man Singh.
Okay.
And the way he recovered Patana Devi's Vigraha from the river is also another fascinating story, which we will cover when we cover Man Singh. In a similar way, he built temples not only to the, deities which were like जो प्रकट हुए थे नदी से या कहीं से, जैसे गोविंद देव जी हो गए, पटना जी हो गए, पटना माता हो गए. He also built temples in memory of his mother in Jharkhand, in memory of his eldest son Jagat Singh, the Jagat Shiromuni temple of Jaipur, another fascinating temple like Govind Dev Ji. And he also contributed to building of Sanskrit schools in the Dashwamedh Ghat in Kashi, built temples in Kashi, contributed to pilgrimages in Jagannath Puri, contributed to the the one or two Shakti Peeths of Bengal, which I don't recall right now. I'm not able to remember the names, which ones, but all in all, his patronage to all three forms, Shakti, Shiva, and Narayan or Vaishnav, is really something which you find not in many monarchies of India actually. Most of the monarchies that I've seen are either tied to Shaivism, either tied to Shakti or to Vaishnav, basis their Kula Devata and worship and all that. But this gentleman, like Ahilya, that's why I compared him to Ahilya Bai Holkar, that touched upon so many multiple places, and this is hitherto absolutely not known. This is not at all discussed about Man Singh in the mainstream history today. And the only part which demonizes him actually is his obviously siding with Akbar.
He probably had no choice, right?
That is one thing. And he was just a lineage to these the affiliation started by Raja Bharmal. After Raja Bharmal comes in Man Singh's father, Raja Bhagwan Das, who had built the old Govindji temple, which we saw in Vrindavan. And then obviously Man Singh. Man Singh was in Akbar's court from the age of 12.
Okay.
So he had a very good understanding with, Akbar. And that is why this title of Mirza Raje, which is primarily used for many of the Kachawa kings later on, was actually for the first time conferred to Man Singh. We know about Mirza Raje Jai Singh, the most shrewd of the Kachawa princes, who was containing Aurangzeb. What is not known in history is Aurangzeb mayhem started from 1664, but it accelerated after 1668. And that is when in between 1669, 70, 80, 81, 82, he went on a spree. But why it started from 68? Because the shrewd and the most, tactical and diplomatic and Raja or Savai Raje Jai Singh, Mirza Raje Jai Singh, passed away.
Okay.
And after he passed away, the senior most noble, Rajput noble in the court of Aurangzeb, there was no one to contain him.
Okay.
As it comes out from the documents, he had some bit of control on Aurangzeb. By hook or crook, whatever you say, diplomacy. And that is why it becomes absolutely necessary to also relook at the way we look at our history, and we often undermine the abilities, the diplomatic, the statesmanship of Man Singh and the 6 Gosais of Vrindavan, who were able to conjure and take out so many grants or so many bighas of land, permission for temples, one after another, massive temples in Vrindavan from the Mughals. Just look at their statesmanship, look at their diplomatic skills, that being religious leaders, they were able to exert so much of influence on the Mughals. And it is from there, the Bhakti movement actually starts.
The Bhakti movement.
Bhakti movement started everywhere in India. I mean, it was present in everywhere in India, in the West, be it in Tukaram or the other holy men, seers, sages of Bengal or Kaling, Mirabai from Rajasthan.
Yes.
But the epicenter of Bhakti movement was Vrindavan. That was the epicenter. And why it was the epicenter? Because the saints of those times, not only they visited there, some of them, majority of them sided over there. I mean, they were sitting over there, including Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had gone there, Vallabhacharya, who had gone there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 6 Gosais stationed over there, Rup, Sanatan and Jiva Gosai. And people not only getting behind these people, the mass getting behind these people, but their increasing popularity within a very short span of time forced Akbar to change his strategy. He didn't do it out of his love for any religion. He was forced to relook at his strategy. And that is why, if you see, it was the same time when he abolished the jizya, when he abolished the pilgrimage tax, 1562, 1564. Then in 1581, which is hitherto again not discussed in mainstream media history, is 1581, Akbar's mother, Hamida Banu Begum, issues a farman which gives you free hand to the Vitthal Gosai in Govardhan.
Okay. Near Mathura.
Mathura for free grazing of cattle.
Okay.
They don't have to pay any taxes for that.
Okay.
A similar farman is again issued in 1588 by Khane Khanan, Abdul Khane Khanan, the foster brother, I think, of Akbar, Abdul Rahim Khane Khanan, again for free grazing around Govardhan and Mathura, Vraj and all these areas. And in 1593, Akbar also issues a farman which prohibits slaughter, hunting or imprisonment of peacocks in Vraj area.
Okay.
Peacocks are integral part of Vraj.
Yes, of course.
Without that, Krishna worship is not complete because with peacock feather.
Yes.
And giving into the sentiments, and this is a very big thing, that Akbar, gives in and he understands the popular sentiment coming out of Bhakti movement, that he puts a ban on peacock slaughter and killing and catching. That's a very big message, that these Gusais had exerted so much of control on Akbar. I told you the incident where he comes into Nidhivan and Haridas Swami gives him a darshan of the Vraj Leela, or
but blindfolded, right?
Blindfolded,
yes,
of the Ras Leela, and he dreams about it and continues to hear about those noises till his last days. But what is important here, and then Man Singh also bringing him along, and it is just not Akbar, but in 1620, Jahangir also comes in and pays a visit to the same temples which his father had approved of. But why this guy also comes in is because of the continuous movement of the Bhakti movement, the continuous popular sentiments of the people, that they are forced to relook, forced to re-strategize. उनको कोई शौक नहीं पड़ा था, उनको कोई प्यार नहीं था वैष्णवों से कि वो लोग ये सब किए हैं. They were forced. Look at the statesmanship of the Gosais of Man Singh, the Kachawa family, continually. Similar with the other religious leaders, be it Ballavacharya ji and his with his descendants in Govardhan area. So all these are actually tied to each other. And
the Bhakti movement,
yes,
overall.
And इसका effect जो है वो बंगाल में भी पड़ा.
So the Bhakti movement in Bengal is driven by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
It's basically triggered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival.
Okay.
Because his style was, he pulled in masses.
Okay. Very charismatic.
Very, pulling people from all strata of society. Wherever he used to go, there was a mob always chasing him.
I see.
And what becomes, what is again not considered by people or thought of by people, those times, even the Mughal army, Mughal commanders used to despise Bengal. Getting a posting in Bengal was a despisement for them.
Why is that?
Sazae Kala Pani tha unke liye.
Sazae Kala Pani.
Bengal ke liye. For them, it is written in the Persian documents, a piece of land with many good things, but with a horrible weather.
Horrible weather?
Yes.
Hot and humid, basically?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And rains.
And rains, heavy rains.
Incessant rains.
Okay.
Now, even the Mughal commanders used to despise going there. उनको posting नहीं चाहिए था.
Okay.
So, but then Man Singh went, and then followed by Islam Khan, of course. But what is important here to understand is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in order to come to Bengal, you had to cross the dense and most dangerous forest of Jharkhand.
Okay.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sanatan Goswami, Rup Goswami, the 6 Gosais, particularly these two, Sanatan and Rup and Jiv Gosai, or Haridas Thakur, these 4-5 saints are very close people to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had traversed this entire jungle from Bengal to reach Kashi, to reach Prayagraj, and to reach Vrindavan.
Okay.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did a crisscross. From Bengal, he went to Vraj, and then from Vraj he comes to Puri. Imagine what kind of a man would be to take alone cross such a ferocious jungle. And there is a ballad, paintings available even today in Gauriya Vaishnava history, that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is passing through the jungle of Jharkhand, that the tigers and deers are also dancing to his tune of Harinam.
Okay.
Paintings are there to prove, and there is a place where his body marks are also there, footmarks.
Okay.
And he was a charismatic personality, 6 feet 5, 6 feet 6 inches tall.
Okay.
And when we go to Jagannath Puri, I will show you his footsteps. You will understand imprints of his footsteps. You will understand his height. It's not less than 6 feet 5, 6, 8, 6, and the height at which he used to put his 3 fingers on the pillars behind Garu's thumb in the Jagannath temple. So those fingerprints are still there. And if you really look at those fingerprints and ऐसे अगर खड़े होते थे तो उनका shoulder यहाँ पे था, तो shoulder मुझे भी ऐसे करके देखना पड़ता है. I'm 6'1", so I have to look up like this. So So that is the era basically, and then obviously after that comes the Britishers, Portuguese, Dutch, French, everyone comes into Bengal. That's a different era. Then comes the tremendous exploitation of the British East India Company of the indigo plantation.
Indigo plantations.
That has to be discussed in very detail. Because that was the time when dacoity had increased in Bengal because of poverty.
Okay.
And one of these dacoits, Vishwanath Sardar, is documented as the first martyr of indigo plantation who was hanged.
Now, why did Bengal become poor? It was the most prosperous region during the Mughal era. So how in a couple of centuries becomes a poor region?
And not only centuries, but it was hit by famine after famine.
Artificial famines?
Artificial famines.
Engineered by the Mughals?
Engineered by the British.
By the British. The Mughals did not do that at least.
No. The Mughals, at that point of time, they were very prosperous. They were very prosperous because inland trade was, booming like anything at that point of time.
Okay.
But after the decline of, as the Mughals were declining and the East India Company was making foray, and then we had the Battle of Plassey.
Yes.
That's which gave absolute control of Bengal to the British.
So until that time, you had people like Siraj-ud-Dowla who were ruling.
Yeah. Although Siraj was a notorious guy, we will discuss all those details, why he was overthrown by his own people. And he was such a, notorious person. He never used to spare women of his own nobles.
His own nobles. So imagine what he will do to the common people.
There is a famous documented history where he goes after the widowed daughter of Rani Bhavani of Nator.
I see.
And that lady was taking a bath in one of the ghats of Ganges and he sees her. She was very pretty and he decides to go after her. And it was by force that Rani Bhavani had to abstain, control, and escalate things to Alivardi Khan to control Siraj-ud-Dowla. In fact, Siraj's wife was the sister of Mohanlal, his Hindu commander.
Okay.
Yeah, and she became, that is what I understand from multiple sources, that, she became pregnant with his child, and that is when Alivardi Khan stepped in and she was converted. Her name was given as Luft-un-Nisa.
Okay.
She was a very pious lady who led the rest of her life after Siraj's murder like an ascetic and was buried behind Siraj.
I see.
Although she had proposals from Mir Qasim, Mir Jafar to marry, because that's I think their religion allows it. So, but then she didn't budge under any pressure. So anyways, that's a different story altogether. But what I'm trying to say, indigo plantation actually ripped out the heart of Bengal. Because all these fertile agricultural lands, which used to give you 2 or 3 times a fasal or a crop every year, were converted into indigo plantation.
Okay, so indigo is a plant, is it?
Indigo is used in textile.
Yeah, but it's a plant that gives us the dye, right?
Right. And I will give you the data plotted by the Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal.
Okay.
That I will show you that data in the next episode, that how indigo exports from Bengal, from here, it rose till here. Bengal was probably in the 13th or 14th position in terms of indigo export. It became number 1 in a span of 50 years.
Okay.
Just in a span of 50 years.
So the British forced the local people to just
yes.
cultivate indigo.
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't cultivate indigo, God save you.
So instead of cultivating food crops, they were forced to cultivate indigo.
Yes.
And this caused famines.
Yes. And this is one of the reasons. And obviously hoarding was always there, which the British were very adept at.
Okay, they would hoard food grains.
Yes.
And not give them out.
Yes.
I see.
Yes. And then this was, unfortunately, substantiated or supported by the zamindars.
The zamindars. Now, who are the zamindars?
The zamindars were a byproduct of the Mughal era.
Okay.
They were landowners.
So the zamindari system was started by the Mughals. They took away the lands of the common people and gave them to these landlords.
Basically, उनको बना दिया single point of contact.
Okay.
आज की डेट में corporate language में
collectors.
रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करो और हमारे खजाने में जमा करो और उसकी जो माई बाप है आप हो.
You do whatever you want.
Yes.
We will not bother with that.
Yes.
You're the
हमें
boss.
पैसा मिलने से मतलब है,
बस तुमको जो करना है.
अगर तुम पैसा नहीं दिया, हमारी फौज तुम्हारी दरवाजे पे पहुंचेगा.
As long as you pay the money, you can do anything you want.
Yes.
Essentially.
And that is also one of the reasons, also one of the key factors that we will see in the Bargi attacks.
Okay.
It is unimaginable to see that, in order to save Alivardi Khan, the Marathas fighting the Marathas.
Yeah.
In the Bargi attacks that happened from 1742 to 1751-52 till Alivardi Khan signs the final treaty with Raghuji Bhosle under the guidance of his wife. This continues, and that also will take us to a bit of inroads into the Maratha history, where we will understand why and how this happened actually, why the two Maratha armies fought with each other in order to save the Nawab of Bengal. That also needs to be understood.
But coming back to the zamindars, were they typically Muslims or Hindus, or what was it?
They were both.
Both.
They were both.
And they would have their own private armies?
Yes. That is why I said warlords also.
Warlords, essentially.
Essentially, that is why he used warlords. And these are the same zamindars, the 12 most powerful zamindars who fought against tooth and nail with the Mughal forces. And it took almost a span of 50 years to contain them.
To pacify them.
To not pacify, subjugate them. Subjugate them completely.
But the zamindari system continues even under the British, because they also found it useful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's the most established, effective and legalized way of extortion.
Okay. Legalized way of extortion. Formally.
Absolutely.
So these zamindars were handpicked by the Mughals, installed as rulers of various parts of Bengal, and those families continued all the way into the British times
and
until independence.
That is what. And some of these zamindars were also their blue-eyed boys. They were handpicked.
Okay, handpicked. Yes, of course.
Their own men, right? Some were traditionally there. Some were handpicked.
So before the Mughals came in, what was the system like? Revenue collection and all that. The Hindu kings.
The Hindu kings, the Hindu kings stopped from the 13th century.
Yes. So before the 13th century, how was the revenue collection?
That was on a different system. That was directly with the monarchy.
Okay.
That was directly with the monarchy.
And people actually owned land of their own, right?
Yeah. That was a different era. The administration of those days, in the Pala and Sena era, was completely different from the administration of this zamindari system. And if I really look at it, this zamindari system, like many of the facets adopted by the Mughal administration, particularly the land revenue system, was actually copied from Sher Shah.
From Sher Shah Suri, the Afghan.
The Sur.
The
Surs. Actually, these were introduced by the Surs.
The Mughals copied a lot of what Sher Shah did, right?
Yes.
He was a very good administrator, just 5 years, but...
Very effective.
Very effective.
Particularly on the land revenue system. Particularly with the land revenue system. So if you study the Mughal land revenue system, the condition of the peasants, the condition of the agricultural lands, how the farmans are rolled out, how they are, stratified into ground level, they all copied from the Surs. Like, for example, we were talking about this in Vrindavan when we went there. So basically, let me take up Vrindavan as a case study, okay?
Okay.
So, Vrindavan and Mathura is a Pargana. The Pargana comes under Suba Agra. There was Suba Agra, there was Suba Aud. There were some 13 Subas under the Mughal administration.
Okay.
At least till the time of Akbar and Jahangir that I have studied.
Okay.
So we will give all those details also in the coming episodes. And then there was Suba Bengal. Suba Bengal के अंदर Bengal था. West Bengal, East Bengal, दोनों मिला के कुछ बिहार था.
कुछ बिहार.
कामरूप थे. Assam never used to come.
Okay.
बाद में बिहार को ऐड किया गया. बिहार otherwise used to be a different one. वाउद के अंदर आता था.
औध.
कलिंग भी अलग आता था. कलिंग को भी फिर बंगाल में जोड़ दिया गया.
Okay, so Bengal was like a super Suba.
Super Suba. That's why Bengal presidency and Madras presidency at the time of the British East India Company.
They just continued the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even today, you'll laugh and the audience will, laugh. ASI is operating on Mughal models. Do you know?
How so? The Archaeological Survey of India.
Yes, sir. The Mathura Vrindavan segment today reports to Agra Circle. अभी भी सुबह आगरा है और परगना मथुरा.
According to the ASI.
Yes, अभी भी वही चल रहा है.
When will
जब
they
हम
grow
लोग
up?
वृंदावन में गए थे, उसके लिए हमें परमिशन लेना था आगरा सर्कल से.
Okay.
I was directed to the superintendent archaeologist of Agra Circle,
Okay.
because Vrindavan and Mathura comes under Agra Circle.
Did they respond?
No, sir.
Of course not.
Of course they will not respond. They will not pick up your phone also.
Yes.
I called up the same numbers which were given to me.
They're
It's there
zamindars.
in the official
They're zamindars.
officer.
I mean, poor peasants, if they...
And we have seen the condition of the temples, even
Horrible.
the Govind Dev Ji temple, which is Kshetra Sampada, along with the Brihadeshwara temple. Brihadeshwara becomes a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and look at the condition of here.
It's
आपको
terrible.
एक भी caretaker मिला ASI का वहाँ पे?
Absolutely nobody.
एक caretaker तक नहीं है उसमें.
Not even a token
और ये
presence.
क्षेत्र संपदा में थे. That was in 1991, not very far off. Only
This is how we treat our own
30
heritage.
30 years back. Only 30 years back.
Coming back to the zamindars, I want to
Yeah.
understand how the people, individual people and families got impoverished. So before the Mughals came in, we did not have the zamindari system, and individual people and individual families could own land of their own.
Yes.
Now, once the zamindari system comes in under the Mughals, your land ownership is gone.
Land ownership gone. आप उसमें आप जिसको शुद्ध हिंदी में बोलते हैं तो दिन का दिहाड़ी पे काम करते हो. Per day work, right?
So you are essentially working on some land, but it is no longer yours, and you have to give the most of it to the zamindar. Okay, so you become a worker or an employee instead of being the owner of the land.
Yes.
You can have your own land, but it's only you're like a tenant.
Right. So the British East India Company, when they forced तो इसमें मैं हिंदी में बताता हूँ ये जगह.
Okay.
2 फसली या 3 फसली जमीन. 2 फसली या 3 फसली जमीन. 2 फसली means 2 फसल देगा.
2 crops a year.
2 crops a year. 3 फसली means 3 crops
3
देगा.
crops a year.
तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल ये सिंगूर का जो केस हुआ, little bit of political this thing that I've discussed, the Tata factory of Singur, for which Mamata Banerjee fought. That was a 3 fasali jameen.
Okay.
It was a fertile land.
So what is there now?
Factory, remnants of the factory.
Okay.
And the land is gone. So anyways, that's the whole crux of the problem started from there.
So
So now what we need to understand कि जहाँ पे 2 फसली 3 फसली था, तो वहां पे आपका जो लैंड ओनर्स होंगे या जो बंदा दिन का दिहाड़ी के बेसिस पे काम कर रहा होगा, both will be prosperous. They will have 24/7 365 days of work with them. Right?
Yes.
Sell proceeds coming in.
Yes.
And they are sending stuff to the market.
Yes.
Mandi. But when you cultivate indigo, one, you lose the fertility of the land.
It destroys the fertility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. तो वो 2 फसली 3 फसली से वो सीधा 1 फसली पे आ गया.
1 crop a year.
1 crop a year. Number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, when we discuss, that is why I said that indigo plantation has to be discussed in very detail, because there is a lot of aspect associated with it. And from there starts the poverty of Bengal. The triggers in the poverty of Bengal. Once such a prosperous land becomes, and the one who was till Farrukhshire, जो मैंने बोला, he highest बंदा दे रहा है. In fact, for that matter, Farrukhshire जब औरंगजेब के बाकी बेटों के साथ लड़ रहे थे to become a Mughal emperor, उसका main basis ही था लड़ने का the Bengal revenue.
The revenue, that was the main thing.
Yes. Even it happened till Aurangzeb also.
Okay.
Till Aurangzeb also, it was, this thing. And much of that credit, of course, goes to Murshid Quli Khan.
Okay.
Who was brought in by Aurangzeb. And Murshid Quli turned around a lot of things. So we will discuss all those things before we get into when we come to that era. So now, what needs to be seen is an indigo, and obviously the price that person whose land it is or whosoever is showing that price you will never get, right? The British East India Company, the price they used to give was peanuts.
Was this during the time of the Rayatwari system? The Rayatwari system was about essentially taking all the land and turning people into tenants.
that the process remains the same.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about the timeline.
That was somewhere in the early 19th century, I believe.
Early 19 नहीं, ये इससे पहले है.
इससे पहले की बात है.
ये
Okay,
इससे
ठीक है.
पहले की बात है. ये
Alright.
18th century की बात है.
Okay.
ठीक है ना? 18th century की बात है. And that is when the first major famine of 1776 rips apart Bengal.
Okay.
Some 10 million people lose their lives.
10 million people.
10 million people.
I mean, that's like larger than the population of many countries.
Yes, 10 million people. And that was the same time when I think there was another such famine in Odisha also, which led to the loss of 3 million lives in Odisha. Again, engineered by T. Ravenshaw.
By?
T.E. Ravenshaw.
T.E. Ravenshaw. I've heard the name somewhere.
Ravenshaw College.
Where is that? In Cuttack.
Yes.
They have a college named after the guy
Even
who
now,
killed 3
today?
million of their people.
Yes, even now.
What is wrong with Odisha?
And even now, I'm saying, even today.
Why can't we stop?
The way we have a Babar lane, right, 5 kilometers from here.
We had an Aurangzeb lane also until recently. We need to stop worshipping our oppressors and commemorating them. Seriously. So Ravenshaw College is named after the guy who killed 3 million Kalingan people.
Engineered famine, just like Churchill.
Incredible.
Just like Churchill.
Okay.
So, and then it starts, and obviously then comes the Battle of, the Sepoy Mutiny. And then post-Sepoy Mutiny, the Bengal Renaissance, where, lot many things happen. People like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, they all, come into limelight for various reasons. Then followed by the arrival of Swami Vivekananda, Paramahansa Ramakrishna. And then obviously the period, because that was a period when you see what was happening. Till the time, the British East India Company was there in charge of the administration. The one good thing that the East India Company officers did, or the Viceroy or Governor Generals did, was to put a big tight control over the evangelists.
The evangelists, the missionaries. Okay.
They were confined to the borders of Srirampur. They were never allowed to come inside Calcutta.
Okay.
तुमको जो करना है उधर करो.
Okay.
Yeah. But the House of Commons wanted to spread Christianity in Bengal, through Bengal. Because they realized the potential of Bengal and the Bengali, the land particularly.
Okay.
Because it was full of resources. So, in 1823 or 33.
Yeah, the first half. Yes.
That was the same time when the Orientalists also are coming in.
Yes.
Wilson, Prinsep, and Cole, all these people. So they allow the East India Company to seize the British government, Queen to take over, and they allow the evangelists to operate with a free hand.
Yes.
And that is when Christianity starts spreading its wings. That is also the time frame when Michael Madhusudan Datta comes in, converted.
Okay, so the poverty helps in spreading Christianity, right?
Yes, and that is also when the number of Anglo-Indians spread fast.
Okay.
I will deliberately not get into the origin of Anglo-Indians. Okay. Because that's pretty disputed and people will not like if I speak the truth. But truth is very horrible.
Okay, very horrible.
Very horrible. We can discuss it offline.
Okay.
So, but with the arrival of Paramahansa Ramakrishna and Swami Vivekananda, they put a check on the evangelists.
Okay.
By their charisma, they start pulling back people in the course of Vedantic Sanatan Dharma. Okay. And then after that, obviously the British administration and the revolution of Bengal revolutionaries come in and all that stuff happens. So that history is pretty well known to people. One after another, great revolutionaries starting from Bagha Jatin, Khudiram Bose, Rishi Aurobindo, Anushilan Samiti, and Pritila, so many of them.
So many, of course.
So many of
them. But if you look at historical Bengal today, which is the present-day West Bengal plus East Bengal, which is Bangladesh.
Yes.
The majority religion today is Islam.
Yes.
Cumulatively.
Yes.
How did that happen in just a few centuries?
Yeah, so that is a very good question, Abhijit ji, because it took some time, but actually, per my study, and this has been documented by not only many Dutch historians, but British historians also. It actually triggers from the time of Murshid Quli Khan.
Murshid Quli Khan, who was a
predecessor of Alivardi Khan.
Predecessor of Alivardi Khan. Okay.
Right. It starts from Murshid Quli Khan, and Murshid Quli Khan.
So he's a Subedar, is he?
He's a Subedar.
Reporting to which emperor?
Aurangzeb.
Aurangzeb, correct.
Subedar and Diwan.
Subedar and Diwan.
Subedar and Diwan.
Okay.
So Murshid Quli was a Brahmin.
What? What? How can a Brahmin have such a name?
He was sold off to a Turk when he was, I think, 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
And he went along with his master to Turkey.
Okay.
Came back, wanted some job with Aurangzeb after his master passed away, but he did not get it. And he moved to somewhere, I think, or he got something little bit through which he rose through the ranks. He rose through the ranks.
So he was converted by his master?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Glorified slave.
What is the term? Mamluk.
Mamluk.
Yes, got it. Okay.
So, once he takes charge of Bengal, he of course does a lot of things in terms of trade and commerce, administration and all that stuff, military or reorganization, everything he does. He is the first person who moves the capital of Bengal from Dhaka to North Bengal, Murshidabad.
Okay, Murshidabad.
So Murshidabad was actually known as Maqsoodabad.
Maqsoodabad.
Yes.
Okay. What's the original name? The non-foreign name? Do we know?
I knew, but I'm not able to recall honestly.
Okay, so it had a native name once.
Yeah, it had a native name. It was the Bengal Sultanate renamed it as Maqsoodabad.
Okay.
It is similar to when Aurangzeb destroyed Mathura and Vrindavan. He renamed Mathura as Islamabad, Vrindavan as Mominabad.
Wow.
And there are Persian documents, gazette notifications, farmans, sale deeds, legal land deeds, which are in these names. Of course, the name Vrindavan, village Vrindavan, Mathura, Pargana Mathura, all that features, but the names of Islamabad and Mominabad also features.
I see.
So he moves the capital from Dhaka to Maqsoodabad or renames it as Murshidabad under his name. Murshidabad becomes a sprawling city. Like the London of the East. It was renamed as London of the East. Okay. That was the prosperity, well connected by inland waterways, roadways, trade, a big hub of trade and commerce and military power as well. Okay. Political and of course. So when he does all these things, he slowly invites and he opens the door of Bengal to all the Chistis, Sufis, Seers from all corners of the world. Okay. Particularly from Iran, Persia, and Turkey, and Delhi, of course. Okay. And from whosoever is there in South. Sab log aao idhar. Sabko laya idhar, jameen jaydad diya, ghar-bar diya, and then he pushed them on the route of the Ganges. Okay. अब सोचिए मुर्शिदाबाद इधर टॉप में है और गैंजेस इधर फ्लो हो रहा है बांग्लादेश के थ्रू साउथवर्ड्स राइट. तो इसका बेल्ट पकड़ के इनको भेज दिया कि तुम जाओ और प्यार से लोगों को कन्वर्ट करो गांव के गांव. ओके. एंड अनफॉर्चुनेटली at that point of time there was no strong religious leadership in Bengal. Okay. In this belt. So the job became more easy for these Sufis and Peers or Ghazis for that matter. Okay. So they went in, and that is the time when, today even in Bengal, there is, when Satyanarayana Puja happens, I've written about this on Facebook, many people who must have seen it. This chronicle of Satyanarayana, which is being read out by the Pandit, there is a character called Satyapir. Satyapir? Peer. And it is being the whole theory goes that there is a Brahmin in Mathura who goes begging alms doesn't get for quite some days, and then he cries, and then a Peer Baba comes in who transforms into Narayan in front of him.
Okay.
Imagine the culmination in order to convince the common men. And these illiterate people, the villagers were illiterate, right? It becomes very easy for them, and that is the easiest way to capture their minds and brain when you propagate religion in this manner, by synchronizing, by culminating your thoughts into their thoughts. So, और इसका जो नतीजा हुआ वो आज भी देखने को मिलता है. सत्यपीर का कहानी आज भी चलता है, आज भी चलता है.
Okay.
मैं जानबूझ के इसको यहाँ पे डिस्कस कर रहा हूँ ताकि लोग जाने और देखे और जाने. मुझे ये बताइए, कौन सा उपनिषद में, कौन सा वेद में, कौन सा उपपुराण में, कौन सा महाकाव्य में सत्यपीर दिखाया गया है? सत्यनारायण को सत्यपीर दिखाया गया है हमारी इसमें? कहीं नहीं है. तो ये कहां से आ गया?
It's an invention, clearly.
A tool, a glorified, polished, and lovable tool to convert.
And people are still falling for it today. Interesting.
And many of our priests use that books.
Really? Even today? Our priests? I don't have any words to say for that. Okay, so this is the process of by
and
which...
similarly, there are other deities also, which is Hindu-Muslim mixture, which happened over a period of centuries.
Okay.
Particularly in West Bengal, there is one deity, Ban Bibi.
Okay.
She is worshipped by these fish catchers, villagers.
Okay.
Who are going into these creeks to catch fishes, so that they're not picked up by a tiger.
Okay, so they worship this deity.
She was again
a synchronized
Hindu-Muslim this thing, whatever.
Okay. So over just 2.5 centuries, this entire population was Islamized.
Okay, so this is one reason. This is one reason. The other reason were the Burgi attacks.
Okay.
When the Burgis were attacking the North Bengal persistently, this Murshidabad segment, Bardhaman segment, many royal families, military families of Alivardi Khan, they moved down south. There were villages which had mixed population, which had purely non-minority population. So they moved down south as well. So that is why at the time of independence, you will notice the zamindars are Hindus, but their subjects are Muslims.
Okay.
Majority of them.
Especially in Eastern Bengal?
Eastern Bengal.
Okay.
So that is the reason. And West Bengal, it is primarily Hindus. That is West Bengal when it was liberated, I mean at the time of 1947, उसको हिंदू होमलैंड बोला गया. क्यों बोला गया हिंदू होमलैंड? एक पुरखों से जो उसका हिंदू पॉपुलेशन चला आ रहा है, और दूसरा इस तरफ से जो हिंदू पॉपुलेशन आया, तो इसको इसलिए वेस्ट बंगाल को हिंदू होमलैंड बोला गया बाय श्यामा प्रसाद मुखर्जी.
I see.
That was the reason.
What's the demographics like in West Bengal today? Do we know?
See, the last census, it happened some 20 years back.
2011 or something, right?
2011 or this thing, but उसका फिगर आया नहीं.
हैं?
उसका फिगर कभी आया नहीं है.
They have not released it?
No. And as per the newspaper reports, obviously we are not connected to the ground, but as per the newspaper report, as a common man that I have seen, there are some 8 crores Bangladeshi and Rohingyas in India.
Yeah.
8 crores.
8 crores. That's 80 million.
80 million.
That's an enormous number.
Yes. 80 million. 800 million. 10 लाख में 1 मिलियन होता है, तो 8 करोड़ कितना हो गया?
80 million.
80 million, correct. तो 80 million spread across भारत, जिसका obviously Bengal, West Bengal being
the closest
to Bangladesh holds the majority number. But yes, लोगों से जो सुनाई में देता है, yes, demographics has changed a lot.
Significantly.
Significantly it has changed. So yeah, I mean, numbers are pretty high. It will be on the higher side. It could be on a high side.
So after independence, we've made the situation. I mean, the point of partition has been essentially, it's been pointless.
It's pointless because even after partition, infiltration continued unabated.
Then why did we do partition?
Exactly. So that is all we speak about. That 10% chale gaye, baki idhar reh gaye hai. Right, and it continued unabated into Tripura, into Assam.
Even Tripura, Assam, we know Assam is a disaster zone now.
Even in Tripura, and infiltration continued, and similarly in Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, infiltration from Burma continued for the not the Meiteis but the
Cookies.
Cookies coming in from Burma.
That's a whole different story, and it's kind of been facilitated in the 20th century by the government.
Yes.
Yeah, it's known.
And the Cookies were essentially brought in by the British.
Yeah, as a punishment.
No, as a fighting force.
As a punishment.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And they were also utilized in the Second World War, which people don't know.
Okay, as a cannon fodder essentially.
Cannon fodder, not only cannon fodder, but jungle tough terrains पे उनको भेज दिया जाता था.
Used to be porters and all. They used to do small arms firing or whatever.
All that.
Yeah, so there's this big story in this entire region. But Bengal.
So this is the Bengal history. What we will cover over the next 2 or 3 episodes, and each of these facets needs to be dived into a little more detail for the better understanding of our audience.
Yes.
And of course for ourselves also necessary alignment, and the other factor what remains is what we also will discover is the temple. People will be astonished that even today, even after all this Islamization what has happened, Bengal has gone through right from 1202, even today Bengal stands as per ASI list at number 4 in terms of temples.
I see.
Ancient temples.
Ancient temples.
You go to the countryside, you have so many of them in ruins.
In ruins.
अब थोड़ा सा भी उसको आप patch up कर लो, उसको चालू कर सकते हो आप. थोड़ा सा patch up कर लो. Glorious temples. Glorious temples.
I see.
And many of these temples have very rich history associated with them. Very rich. They must have been visited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Vivekananda or Swami Paramahansa Dev or somebody other, some great men, seer, associated with them, and fascinating history for them, and the architecture, for that matter. So it's still number 4. Quite amazing, isn't it?
Interesting. Very amazing, yeah.
Number 4. It still stands at number 4, and this is data that I'm speaking of 2023.
That's like almost very recent. Yes.
Right, and when I saw the data, I was surprised that what? Even before Kaling, even before Odisha.
Okay, in terms of numbers.
Because Odisha में जितना temples मैंने देखा है ground zero पे, उतना temples मैंने बंगाल में नहीं देखा था.
I see.
And even today, when I started researching on this fact, you will be surprised, Abhijit ji, the data that comes out of Royal Asiatic Society of Bengal, as late as 2023 October, सिर्फ पुरुलिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट में कम से कम 60 से ऊपर, सिर्फ पुरुलिया डिस्ट्रिक्ट से 60 से ऊपर ऐसे मंदिर है जो 300 साल या उससे भी ज्यादा पुराना है.
Just one district.
Just one district, Purulia district.
I see. That's amazing.
60. 60 और उनका नाम बकायदा दिया हुआ है, उनका लीनिएज बकायदा दिया हुआ है.
उन सबको रिवाइव करेंगे तो प्रॉब्लम होगा ना.
So we all know what we are speaking.
Yes.
We all know. But लोगों को ये जानना जरूरी है that there is a substantial Sanatan history, Hindu history still in this thing. And then there are the archaeological sites which we need to cover.
Chandraketugarh
is just one of
them.
Just
one, yes.
Just one of them. There is Panduraja DB. And there are some 8 more enormous archaeological sites like Ballal Sen ka DP. Or the mounds or tilas that we see in Vrindavan is a similar concept in Bangladesh.
In Bangladesh.
You dig up those mounds, you will get enormous treasure.
Archaeological treasure.
Even Chandraketugarh, if you do a GPR, ground penetrating radar survey today, even today, one archaeologist had commented to me, it can take you back to painted graver era.
Acha, PGW era.
PGW,
Okay.
which is 4,500, 5,000, or even at least on a conservative basis, 3,500 years.
Yeah, right. At least 1500 BC minimum.
Minimum 1500 BC. Minimum.
So that tells you the cultural and archaeological historical continuity that Bengal
You
has.
will be surprised. In August of last year, Government of India had put up a show at the Jaipur House. They had brought in the best of materials from both on-site and off-site museums. They had specially built it for 3 months for G20 delegates.
Jaipur House is in New Delhi.
Yes. I had gone to see these exhibition artifacts. Twice I went. First time I went on my own. The second time I took the team of IIT Kanpur with me.
Okay.
Now, what was on display? Imagine the war chariot from Sinoli with the antenna sword and the shield.
The copper sword. Yeah.
Antenna sword and the shield. Then artifacts from Chandraketugarh and one manuscript of Rig Veda, 1500 BC in Kharoshti script. Not Devanagari, but Kharoshti script.
1500 BCE.
अभिजीत जी आपको देवनागरी स्क्रिप्ट ज्यादा से ज्यादा जगह में मिल जाएगा.
हाँ, Kharoshti is the other way around, left to right, right to left.
हाँ, Kharoshti आपको मिलेगा नहीं.
Yeah.
Kharoshti script from 1500 BC.
1500 BC.
Yes.
They said that the Rig Veda was written after 1500 BC. आर्यन इन्वेजन हुआ था.
कैसे हो सकता है जब सिनौली का वॉर चैरियट 1800 BC है ऑन अ कंजर्वेटिव फिगर. जब पहले सिनौली का चैरियट निकला था तब उन्होंने बोला 3500 से 4000 BC है. फिर जब ऑफिशियल डेटिंग फिगर आया 1800 से 2000 BC कर दिया. अगर मैं उसको भी मान के चलूं तो भी तो आपका आर्यन इन्वेजन थ्योरी फेल हो रहा है. सिंपल मैथमेटिक्स है.
सीधी बात है. इट्स कंप्लीटली.
अच्छा, दूसरी बात छोड़ दो. आप व्रज सेगमेंट में हमने देखा, बंगाल में भी देखा, there are 600 plus sites, Mauryan, pre-Mauryan, Skanda, Kushana, Sakas era, which are more than 3,000, 5,000 year old. अगर ऐसा है तो फिर, I mean, if Aryan invasion theory is true, then the whole concept of PGW fails. The whole concept of PGW fails.
And we see PGW over such a wide area.
Yeah.
Enormous area.
Sir,
subcontinent size area.
Abhijit ji, in Bengal alone, let people listen this, and in Odisha, there are put together 100 plus Neolithic, Neo-Neolithic, Pre-Neolithic, and Paleolithic sites.
And you will see cultural continuity in all these sites. Similar culture, so the culture is the same, but you will see different through different eras. And different depths under the ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
In Ayodhya, in Kashi, in Mathura, all these places once excavated, if we go through all the archaeological reports, we will find one thing in common, which is those places have been used only, and Dwarka, the current Dwarkadish temple where it stands today, or even Somnath, or even Ujjain, all these places archaeologically have been used only and only for the purpose of worship.
Yes, that will go back thousands of years.
And when I look into the archaeological reports of mere Vrindavan city only, into the various mounds, Dwadash Aditya Tila, on which the Madan Mohan temple stands. So Krishna, after fighting Kaliya, rested there and 12 suns appeared to dry his perspiration.
Okay.
That is how the name of Dwadash Aditya comes in. That alone has artifacts coming out from PGW era.
Okay.
Bricked inscriptions. Mauryan, pre-Mauryan. With excavations which had happened late as 1976. After that, हुआ ही नहीं.
After that, we have not bothered to look into this further.
No.
Yeah.
अब पुराना किला में ले लीजिए, अभी excavation last year से चल रहा है. I had gone there only 2 weeks back. और वहां से ऑलरेडी कुशान एरा का मिल चुका है. दे आर स्ट्रेटिफाइंग इट, दे आर फर्दर डिगिंग इन. अभी 30-32 फीट तक पहुंचे हैं और भी नीचे जाएंगे.
Yeah, historical continuity everywhere.
And I say to everybody, don't say Indraprastha, say Khandaprastha.
Khandaprastha.
Because Khandaprastha was ruled by a Yadava king who vacated it for Arjuna and Krishna for Khandavdahan. तो और जो महाराज युधिष्ठिर का महल था, ये तो सरकार से खुद भी बोलते हैं, जो डॉक्यूमेंट्री दिखाते हैं लेजर शो में दिल्ली का इंद्रप्रस्थ का हिस्ट्री, उसमें ये लोग खुद ही बोल रहे हैं कि जो इंद्रप्रस्थ का महल था वो पुराना किला का माउंट से निगमबोध घाट तक जाता था.
ओके.
निगमबोध घाट इज वन वेरी ऑस्पिशियस प्लेस ऑफ दिल्ली व्हिच पीपल डोंट नो.
तो वहां पर आर्कियोलॉजिकल डिगिंग हुआ है?
नहीं हुआ है.
क्यों नहीं हुआ है भाई?
लगाओ जीपीआर. हाँ, लगाओ जीपीआर लगा के हमने पुराना भुवनेश्वर सिटी को बचाया ना, जीपीआर लगा के. नहीं तो वहां भी कॉरिडोर बनना था. अच्छा. जेसीबी लग के. अच्छा, हमने बचाया ना. तो यहाँ पे क्यों नहीं जा सकता? यहाँ वृंदावन का माउंट में लगाओ, चंद्रकेतुगढ़ में लगाओ, टेक्नोलॉजी है, सैटेलाइट एनालॉग टेक्नोलॉजी है, लगाइए आप. C14 कार्बन डेटिंग है, लगाइए उसको काम पे. इट डजंट कॉस्ट अ लॉट ऑफ मनी. जीपीआर तो अपने पास 1971 Tata Institute of Fundamental Research does a carbon dating of charcoals taken out of Dwarka. They give the rating it as 5,568 years old. So 1971 से 5,568 साल पीछे जाएंगे तो that comes in the time of 3200 BCE. आर्यभट्ट ने 3102 BCE आइहोल इंस्क्रिप्शन में दे रखा है. 3102 BCE आर्यभट्ट ने बोला है. So why are people debating the date of the Mahabharata? आर्यभट्ट से बड़े हो क्या? I mean, what I am not able to understand today, whatever, with all due respect to all the scholars, I'm not a master subject matter expert of that. People who are identifying the timelines of Mahabharata. In fact, Professor Rao also commented it 1500, 1800 BC, which I do not agree. So, as you know, 5,500 BCE or 2000 there are all BCE, kinds of dates that are floating around. These are all coming out of softwares which are used. They use various interpretations of the Sanskrit texts, and that's why it gives you. And they put it in a software. Yeah, of course, the astronomical software. Yes. और महाभारत का डेटिंग के लिए सबसे ज्यादा जो मैंने सुना है, अरुंधति नक्षत्र had overtaken वशिष्ठ नक्षत्र. Okay. That is one of the major deciding factors. Okay. So whatever it is, I am not getting into those details, and neither am I a subject matter expert, so I won't comment there. But what I know is what you also know, what majority of the Indians also know. हमारा एस्ट्रोनॉमी और एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल साइंसेस का जो नॉलेज था वो वर फार स्ट्रॉन्गर एंड फार बेटर इन टाइम्स ऑफ द गुप्तास एंड मौर्यस. एंड this Qutub Minar was a Vishnu Stham, which was built by Aryabhatta for astronomical purposes, which is well documented. I mean, there are proofs for that. जब तक सरकार उसको accept करे, I don't know or whether ASI accept करे, but it is known that Vishnu स्तंभ है वो आर्यभट्ट ने बनवाया था उसको. Anyways, so that is again debatable, like तेजो महल and ताज महल. But मैं सबको यही बोलता हूँ, भैया दरवाजे का C14 डेटिंग करवा लो. जो पुराने सेलर्स हैं उनको खोल के जो आर्टिफैक्ट्स पड़े हैं उनको निकाल के उसका डेटिंग कर लो. ताजमहल, राइट? एग्जैक्टली, डेट निकालो. आप सर्वे करवा रहे हो ना, भोजशाला का भी तो सर्वे करवा रहे हो. क्यों करवा रहे हो? इसीलिए तो करवा रहे हो ताकि उसका डेटिंग किया जा सके. ज्ञानवापी में भी आपने करवाया, आपने अयोध्या में भी करवाया, अब मथुरा में भी होगा कुछ दिन में, आई एम श्योर. कार्बन डेटिंग तो बहुत इजीली होता है. You don't need extensive equipment or anything for that. अभी तो रेडियो कार्बन भी आ गया है. हाँ, वही है कार्बन डेटिंग. रेडियो कार्बन वही है, C14, कार्बन 14. Yes. So इसको हम करेंगे तो हमारी हिस्ट्री तो पता नहीं और कहाँ तक चली है. ये सब इन्होंने जानबूझ के दबा के रखा है सब कुछ. So much can emerge. So what is important here is as say, I mean, from our Vraj tour, from discussions in Bengal, there are so many archaeological sites. Only Vraj, only putting the Mauryan, Gupta, Kushana, Saka and Sunga. These 5 monarchies put together, there are some 600 plus archaeological sites which are either lost, getting lost, or half excavated. Some of the archaeological sites are already lost, Abhijit ji, to encroachment.
Encroachments.
To encroachment. We went to Govind Dev Ji temple, right?
Yes, yes.
That is the highest stela in Vrindavan, 15 meters from sea level.
Okay.
And 8 acres of land. वहां से जब ASI ने खनन किया था, 2 डांसिंग कुशाना एरा विग्रह मिला था उनको. साला भंजिका दे आर कॉल्ड.
कहाँ पर है वो आज?
वो रखा हुआ है मथुरा म्यूजियम में.
मथुरा म्यूजियम में डाल दिया?
मथुरा म्यूजियम में रखा हुआ है, जो गोविंद देव टीला से निकला था, गोमा टीला से निकला था.
अच्छा.
साला भंजिका ऑफ द कुशाना एरा.
ओके. कनिष्क के समय का?
1976 का डिगिंग में.
ओके.
तो उसके बाद तो डिगिंग हुआ ही नहीं
हुआ.
और PGW का पॉटरीज तो यमुना खदर पकड़ के, यमुना खदर मीन्स द फर्टाइल लैंड ऑफ यमुना व्हिच वी डिस्कस्ड इन द फर्स्ट एपिसोड व्हेन वी डिस्कस्ड इन व्रज, उसमें बहुत निकला है. बहुत निकला है. एंड मेनी ऑफ द साइट्स जस्ट लाइक बंगाल आल्सो, इन व्रज आल्सो, many of the sites which the British people also have identified is that Hindu sites from where Buddhist artifacts are also coming out, which means they were under Buddhist occupation for some time.
Afterwards, it's various points in time we had different eras and all that. Yes.
Just like Katra Keshav Dev में भी Buddhist monastery मिला है.
अच्छा.
Remains of Buddhist monastery. Meenakshi ji has also documented it.
Okay.
So ऐसे ही सब जगह से मिला है. चंद्रकेतुगढ़ में भी बुद्धिस्ट आर्टिफैक्ट्स मिला है. I think
everywhere across India we had a certain Buddhist era which came after.
And Buddha officially is accepted as one of the avatars of Vishnu.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is there in Jayadev Goswami's Geet Govinda also.
Okay.
Yeah, literary evidences are also. Jayadev Goswami's Geet Govinda of 12th century also signifies Buddha as one of the avatars of Vishnu. Kesavadhrita Buddha Sarira. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Yeah, Buddha is we know that he is one of the avatars of Vishnu. Yes.
So that's how it is.
Right.
So when we, all in all, what I'm trying to say, Abhijit ji, is when we start looking at Bengal from various perspectives, we will get into a bit of Maratha history, we will get into a bit of Kachawa history, we will get into the Bhakti movement, we will get into indigo plantation, the famines, operations by the British, and we will also get into Bengal Renaissance and Bhakti movement. So, and maritime trade, Bengal's maritime trade. So, 8 perspectives that we are going to look at when we discuss Bengal in greater details, part by part.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful overview. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.